Hello, in this lecture we're going to continue on with our discussion of supply and demand. Chapter 4, the chapter goals are: state the law of demand and distinguish between shifts in demand and from movements along the demand curve. State the law of supply and distinguish shifts in supply from the movement along supply curve. Explain how the law of demand and the law of supply interact to bring about equilibrium. Discuss the limitations of demand and supply analysis. So we're going to continue with our discussion of supply. We've completed demand. We're going to go through supply, and then we're going to move on to that interaction, of course, between supply and demand. So we'll start off with our familiar graph here. So we have price on the vertical axis. We got quantity on the horizontal axis. And what we are saying is at point B, if the price is 50, then we are going to produce, in this case, 4.1. And then if a change in price causes a movement along the supply curve. So if the price changes, if the price goes up from 50 to 80, and again, you might say, well, we are the ones setting the price, so I could just make it go up from 50 to 80. But remember that what we're saying is we're price takers, so the market is the one making it go up from 50 to 80, then we will generally produce more at that given price. So if we could sell the stuff at 80, then we'll probably produce more. We'll produce at point C, and that will mean that the quantity supplied would go up from 4.1 to 4.3 in this example. So notice that when we look at this, we're just thinking about price, the independent variable, and seeing what happens on quantity, the dependent variable, and we're not taking into account anything else. If something other than price happens, then we're going to say that the supply curve itself will then shift, and that's what we'll take a look at now. So shifts in supply versus movement along the supply curve. So we just looked at movement along the supply curve. If a change in a shift factor causes a shift in the supply curve, so that could shift at any given point. So at any given price factor, if we were here, we were producing quantity here, and if there was a shift outwards, then at that same price, we're going to produce out here. We're going to produce more in this case if we were shifting outwards at any given level. Now, what could cause a shift? We'll talk about the factors that are going to cause shifts, but just a couple common factors. I mean, if there's often debate on inputs like wages or something like that. If the minimum wage went up and we have a lot of minimum wage workers, then it's possible that the cost would go up. And that's something that is independent of price, but could affect the amount that will be produced. So that could shift. Technology changes could shift any kind of input. If it was oil that we make stuff and there's oil in the stuff we make, if the price of that input goes up or down, that could shift whether we produce more or less at any given price level as well. So things that will shift then, remember, anything other than price that will affect the supply will then shift the supply curve, and those things could include things like price of inputs. So if we have labor, the labor rate, if the labor rate goes up and down for any reasons, if the labor costs for other type of reasons such as other regulations in terms of the labor and what it takes to have someone within labor, like healthcare and benefits and those kinds of things. Those could affect and shift the supply curve one way or the other. Technology, usually if we have increase in technology, that could lower costs, so that could shift the supply curves. Expectations, anytime we have future expectations, we're usually going to make actions today based on future expectations, so that could shift the supply curve. Taxes and subsidies. So obviously if we raise taxes, that could be kind of like another cost, an input item, which could reduce the amount that would be produced. Subsidies, obviously if they raise the price or subsidize production, that would generally increase production. Okay, we're going to take a look at a similar table we looked at last time. So we got this nice Excel table again, and the idea here being that if we take a look at an individual supply curve, and then we can kind of picture what would happen if we were able to add up all supply curves for all people that were producing. We're on the production side at this point. Then theoretically, you can see how that could come up to the market supply curve. So this is a simplified model of that, but we can see pictorially how that could be imagined to be the way that we can think about the market supply curve. So in this case, we've got Ann, Barry, and Charlie. These are suppliers, people that are going to supply our stuff here, whatever we are making. And at $1, Ann would supply 1. Barry's not going to enter the market, doesn't think they can make money at that price, and Charlie's not going to enter the market, so the market supply would be just 1 in that case. If the price went up to 3 then, and again, notice it's not just Ann, Barry, and Charlie that raised the price to 3. they're price takers. The market price went up to 3. The question is, hey, donuts cost $3, and the question is, do you want to enter the market at that price because you can't really sell them for more than that, and you wouldn't really want to sell them for less than that? Do you think you can make a profit at that price? That in a perfect market, or perfect competition type market, that's what we're talking about here. And again, we'll talk about variations on that later. So if Ann comes in, she's going to make the 3, then Barry's going to make the 2, and Charlie's still not going to come in, so the 3 and the 2 is the 5. If we bring the price up to 5, the market brings the price up to 5, Ann's going to make 5, Barry 4. Charlie's still not going in the market. We got 5 and 4 is the 9. And if the price goes up to 7, then Ann 7, Barry 5, and Charlie finally enters the market at 2, bringing it up to 14 total market supply. Of course, we can graph that out, which is what we'll take a look at now. So if we looked at the market supply curve is the summation of all individual supply curves. So if we look at the individual supply curve, here's Charlie not going to enter the market until that price gets up to 7. And here's Barry that's going to produce more at any given price, and Ann is going to produce more at any given price. If we were to add up those, then if we took a look at the price of 7, Charlie's going to produce 2, Barry's going to produce the 5 down here, and Ann's going to produce, it looks like 7. If we add those up, the 2, the 5, and the 7 should give us the total demand or supply that would give us the 14 in this case.